In case you missed it this week, I had a guest appearance on Steven Crowder's podcast, Louder with Crowder, and they were gracious enough to make a highlight cut of those segments, so I'm sharing that with you here. If you like what you see, please do visit his channel and subscribe for more. Big thanks to Steven and his producer, Not Gay Jared, who is assuredly not gay, for the opportunity. They are a model for the rest of us trying to create independent media, and their work has been a major influence on my own. So without further ado, enjoy. And that's when it really, all this stuff kind of really started standing out to me, because there was this big movement to, false flag her off YouTube, get her, I don't know, put her to the death penalty, whatever. There was this whole pitchfork nation against her. And that's what really got me.
Those were fat people. Those were just their standard forks.
Standard forks.
You misinterpreted it. You started out doing gaming stuff, and now you've come out and you've obviously been sort of in support of this freedom of speech movement, anti sort of social justice left. I don't want to miscategorize you. I know from what I understand, you've represented yourself as pro free speech, but sort of fiscally maybe more liberal. Am I getting that right?
I mean, that's where I've been historically. I've been a lifelong Democratic voter, which I guess isn't terribly long. That only goes back to 2008. Okay. But yeah. And
08 is long enough.
08 is long enough, man. Your damage is done.
But you might be pleased to know that changed this time around. So,
okay.
The times they are changing. But yeah, I used to be in gaming. And, the games I played, Call of Duty and stuff, that got a little bit stale. The games got bad. And so I started dabbling in social commentary stuff. And what really kind of got me going last year, the big standout incident that I kind of made my name for a name for myself on was the Nicole Arbor incident, where she, committed the high crime of making fun of the
fat people,
overweight people.
Yeah,
and
we call them walruses. This is the term they prefer. It's hard to keep track of the words.
Yes, but that's exactly it. Lots of people use that terminology, and yet for some reason this woman is crucified.
Right.
And so, she has her moments. She's not my favorite comedian by any stretch. But
she's a social justice leftist herself, but I still had to defend her on that issue.
Yeah. And that's when it really, all this stuff kind of really started standing out to me, because there was this big movement to, false flag her off YouTube, get her, I don't know, put her to the death penalty, whatever. There was this whole pitchfork nation against her. And that's what really got me.
Those were fat people. Those were just their standard forks.
Standard forks.
You misinterpreted it. I'm sorry. You knew what you signed up for when you came on here. Sorry, continue.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But that's been, if I could pinpoint any point where my eyebrows started to raise with, my former political friends, it's moments like that where it's like, okay, we can have disputes about what's tasteful and what you want to watch for entertainment or you don't, but I'm not going to sit here and start thought policing you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you can and can't watch or what can or can't be posted on the internet.
Right. You're not a registered Democrat. Does that mean you're registered independent? Are you going Trump?
No, they're actually, so I live in Montana. We don't do it's open primary. You can vote however you want.
Okay.
I did vote Trump. I did vote Trump in the Montana primary June 7th, sorry. Okay. Which is my first major Republican vote. It's the first time.
And why was that? What made you make that decision?
For now, I want to see the right heads explode, and I want to watch the campaign. It's less of a political endorsement, but who doesn't want to watch the Trump-Hillary debates? And it was over by the time I voted.
Right.
But who doesn't want to watch the protests in Cleveland at the convention? Who doesn't want to watch the Hillary-Trump debates? Who doesn't want to watch that political theater? So right now I'm voting entertainment.
Yes,
but at least he's honest about it.
This is honest about it.
But I will say this: I don't think there is a scenario in which I can vote for Secretary Clinton. I don't think it's going to happen. So for me, it's going to be, do I want to vote with a middle finger to the social justice left and watch their heads explode, or do I just want to abstain?
Right.
And so that's kind of the...
I think Trump joins them in a lot of ways. I mean, you are talking about a guy who wants to increase libel laws, a guy who, is pro using whatever bathroom you want and spoke out against people who disagree with it. Like, he's not really a freedom of speech guy. He pisses off the right people, but not necessarily for the right reasons.
Well, and he's all over the place. It's hard to say, do you support Trump? Why? On what issue? Well, I mean, he's been for this and against that and for this and against that. It's hard to nail him down on what exactly he would want to do or what exactly he plans to do.
Right.
So I don't necessarily know what policy I'm voting for by voting for him necessarily. I just know that he's making the right people mad, and I want to watch him be mad.
Historically, you said that you were, I guess, sort of free speech, but more fiscally liberal. I remember watching a video where I'm not going to lie, I was a little disappointed because you said, I think that the Democratic Party does more for the poor, something along those lines. I want to know, has that changed, or has it stayed the same, and why?
So, I'm not a policy expert on these things, but that's the way I've leaned. And to me, it's become, with reference to what you were just describing, in that particular video, it's like, I've leaned this way. But if you're going to put more foundational ideas as the cost to supporting those types of policies, I'm not with you.
Right.
If we don't agree on free speech, if we don't agree on due process, if we don't agree on a lot of constitutional principles, I don't care about debates about economics or investment or foreign policy if we betray those foundational values. And to me, it seems like it's becoming a choice between those things. And I think
you're
really
right.
disheartening. As someone who has been kind of on the left as a voter for the last few years, you hear the things that they say, and they talk about common sense regulation and all these things. And to someone who's not necessarily as informed on the issue, like, oh yeah, it makes sense that people shouldn't have machine guns, right?
Right.
But this is an issue where the more I dig into it, the more it seems clear that I hate when issues are this simple, but I really do believe it is people who are informed versus people who are uninformed.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I was just talking about this one. It is an issue that requires an uninformed voting base who don't know what a semi-automatic is, who don't know what the no-fly list is, and who don't know that an assault weapon doesn't exist, and you can't get a machine gun without a background check. It requires those people in order to be pushed through.
Yeah, and when you look into these quote unquote common sense regulations, the less common sense they make. Like the common sense regulation right now is, hey, if you're on one of the two lists, you're not gonna be able to get a weapon. So we're gonna deny you your Second Amendment right. We're also gonna deny you due process because that's common sense.
Right.
I think it was Trey Gowdy at a House hearing this week, who basically was asking someone testifying. I forget.
Well, you
what
just
her
outed
title was,
yourself. If he's talking about Trey Gowdy, there's no way there's not even a shred of Democrat left in him. If his audience thought so.
What he said was,
Trey Gowdy.
You
went to the right of Attila the Hun, my friend. Go ahead.
What he said was really important, though. What he asked her was, can you name another constitutional right that we would take away and then require you to petition the government to return? And of course, that was a question that could not be answered. And I am a firearm owner, and I don't shoot them recreation. I don't hunt. I rarely go target shooting because I just don't want to buy the ammo, that kind of thing.
Right.
But if someone comes in my home with malicious intent, they're going to stare down the barrel of that firearm, and rightfully so. And a lot of the argument is, well, have you ever needed it? Well, I've never needed the majority of the safety equipment in my life.
Right.
I've never been in a car crash that required a seatbelt. I've never been in a burning building that required a fire extinguisher. I've never needed these things, but I'm happy that they're there.
Sure.
And I wouldn't want to surrender that protection to the state, because if someone comes in here and I call the cops, I would rather not wait for the cops to get here, as fast as they may be.
It is an entirely untenable position for someone like Sean King or DeRay to say cops are racist. The judicial system is inherently biased and slanted toward white privilege. The military-industrial complex is not to be trusted, and then believe in disarming everyone who's not a part of those institutions. It's just not a tenable position. But like you said, there are people who go, you know what? I trust the government. I trust their authority. Ban all guns. I have more respect for that. Kind of like I have more respect for you just saying you're voting entertainment than trying to do the mental gymnastics for Trump.
I'm not pretending. Yeah, I won't pretend.
No, it's well worth it.
I'll tell you how my evolution has happened and is happening and possibly will evolve further. And that is because of the assault on the most important value and the most important issue. When I see freedom of speech being eroded, either as a legal issue or as a cultural issue, I start listening to people on the other side. And I think, like, no, there's people who have to be thinking in the same way I am that are worried about this. So I find people like you. I find people like Milo. And I start listening to them. And then you talk about, all the other issues you care about, X, Y, and Z. And then that'll spark interest in my mind as well. And I'll start thinking, well, I've been on the other side of this historically, but I haven't considered that position.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. We do try, and we can't get liberals to come on the show. What is it this week? D.L. Hughley ducked. Michael Wood Jr. It's a real problem. So I'm glad that there are people out there like you who may disagree on some points where we can, because we cannot get people to come on here vocally and disagree. They book and then they leave. They never show up.
Well, the problem is my list of disagreements are shrinking. So people keep asking me like, how are you a liberal? And I'm like, oh, well, I used to have like 10 reasons. Now there's like half a reason, maybe.
Hey, if you like this clip, it's taken from the full-length podcast every week. You can click that box down below to watch the full free video cast or subscribe on iTunes to watch on the go. Click my face to go to louderwithcrowder.com where we write plenty of articles, columns, and upset those who are easily triggered. Or click below me. There's some other video down there. I don't know what it is yet. Not Gay Jared is going to toss. It's probably going to be something ambiguous but uncomfortable.